One from the 70s is Blondie and Heart of Glass. If rock be your space, this man is quite a rocker in the entrepreneurship world. My guest of the day.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi.k.
Radio 1.
Dilip Kapur is president Hidesign, and what interests me about his life story is that it's not only about the brand. So much for all those people who say 24 hours a day, you just have to live and breathe your brand. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here. And what an interesting life you've led. I mean, it's fascinating that you joined the ashram, the Aurobindo ashram, at the age of 6 in Pondicherry. Talk about those early years. What kind of an impression that must have been left in the mind of a 6-year-old?
Well, I didn't join. My father joined. Okay. And what was it like? I think it was quite incredible because you're a Punjabi family, never been out of North India, and then you land up in this place, which at that time was still French. We actually had to have a passport to get in there. And went to the ashram, and suddenly you were free. I mean, you think of an ashram as not being a free place, but the ashram was really a freeing experience for me, coming from a convent school which I'd already joined. We had a free system of education. We were all girls, boys, mama, papa. Everybody had to put on their shorts and go off to school and go for phys ed every day. So I think it was an incredibly freeing experience. I wouldn't say it was a spiritual experience because they don't teach you anything about even Mother and Aurobindo until you get to college level.
And there are two principal languages. One is French and one is Bangla. How good is your French and how good is your Bangla? And of course, your third language, which is Tamil. How good are you? How proficient are you in all three languages?
I grew up there knowing 7 languages.
Wow.
When you join kindergarten in the ashram, they don't speak to you in anything except French. So it just takes a couple of months. And when I went to America at the age of 15, my French and English were equal. We did a lot of our education there is in French. So, French is what you grew up with. You're right. How did you know about Bangla? I'm surprised.
I told you, I've gone, I meditated at the Matra Mandir. I've spent some time in Auroville, my years of discovery, which make me a better radio presenter.
Yeah, it was Bengali majority, so you had no choice. And you had to believe that Calcutta was the capital of the world.
Indeed it was back then.
Yeah.
It still is in their minds, but that's the way it is.
So Bangla you learn, and Hindi, of course, Punjabi, and French and English and Tamil. So you grew up knowing 6-7 languages in the ashram school.
The wonderful Dilip Kapur is president at Hidesign. Up ahead, how he first started a workshop as far as Hidesign is concerned. The Pet Shop Boys and Go West. The Pet Shop Boys with Go West, Dilip Kapur has revolutionized what used to be a small fledgling industry to one of the most vibrant brands in the world. He is president at Hidesign.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi.k.
Radio 1.
So young Dilip Kapur returns and comes back home to India. What is that, the late 70s? And when did the dream that was Hidesign first start, and how?
Well, actually the dream was Auroville, was to create an international community, and we were coming out of this big cultural revolution in America where I was sort of a hippie freak, radical, whatever, and came back to actually build Auroville. Hidesign was, if you told me I was going to start a business, I would have murdered you. I hated the idea of doing a business. But my last year in America, I'd worked to earn some money at a leather factory. And I loved the feeling of leather. I loved the way it was natural and so beautiful. So when I came back, it was a hobby. I just put a thatch roof on top of my house, and with one guy, we were making little bags, one by one by one. And fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you want to call it, people liked them. People started buying them. People started ordering them. But I think the most fun was the fact that we could just design whatever we liked. And now when I look back at my icon bags, which are doing in exhibitions across India now, I really realized that I didn't give a damn whether somebody liked my bags. And I think that's one reason why those bags were the most beautiful. Now, when you start thinking too much of what the consumer likes, what he doesn't like, you end up designing safe bags. So it was really a hobby, and even though it kept growing and one house got filled up with people working, then another house, then a third
So sorry to
house.
interrupt. It was a two-man unit initially. Wow. And then it grew from that, isn't it?
Yeah, me and one guy, yeah.
Amazing.
I would I taught him how to make the bags and he taught me how to work with leather. So that's the way it worked. And it kept growing one by one by one by one. And by the time we made our first factory, which is when I think I realized that it was no longer a hobby. We had already 150 people and we built our first factory in 1990. So until then, it's just a hobby.
Wow. The story of Dilip Kapur, President Hidesign. Pictures of the good gentleman coming up at hrishi.k on Twitter and facebook.com/radio1.mum. You're listening to this broadcast online all across the country. It's www.m.radio1.in and all you have to do is click Mumbai and post Dilip Kapur tomorrow. Brent Owens from Melbourne, Australia. He's just been crowned MasterChef 6 Australia winner. And day after tomorrow, Friday, Kalki Kekla, Margarita with a Straw is her movie. So fab week lined up for you guys. Messages and back. A Norwegian band called Aha, the follow-up to that massive one called Take On Me. This is Cry Wolf. Dilip Kapur is President Hidesign. He's in conversation with me.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Rishi K.
Radio 1.
All week, there's something which is very close to your heart that's happening in exhibition right here in Mumbai city. Talk about it.
What we're doing at the Palladium is what we call an icon exhibition where two things are happening. One is we're talking about how we started, who we are. I think one of the great weaknesses of Indian brands is that we end up aping what's happening abroad and we don't really talk about who we are. And I think, we do have an interesting background. We started in a small town like Pondicherry, which I think is beautiful. I think I call it Utopia by the sea. And I think, we want to talk about what we did, how we started. And it's a dual purpose there because we want our own people to know. As we grow bigger and bigger and bigger and we are everywhere with everybody, people forget who we are, what our core values are. That's one. And secondly, as Yves Carcel, my mentor from Louis Vuitton, who, talked to me about these things, he always said, nobody is going to love you. Nobody can love a brand unless they know you. It's not possible. So you need to talk about who you are. Talk about, whether you're from small town, fine, you're from a small town. You're from India and you're not pretending to be from Milan or Paris. That's fine. You've got an interesting story. At least you have a story that's different from all the other 100 brands that have come out of, Milan and Paris. So I think our story of who we are, our heritage comes through very clear in the Icon exhibition.
Fantastic. How's the bike doing? I believe you're passionate about your Enfield. I had a guy here you'd be interested to know. His name is Ian King. He's the world drag racing champion. Yeah, so he'd come here to do a demonstration. And he says that, and this is a man who over the last 25 years has ridden the best bikes in the world and he's world champion.
Right.
And he says that the Enfield is as good as any in the world. And he puts it as part of his top 5 bike collection. So that's a great one for you guys who drive Enfields.
Yeah.
Talk about your passion for your bike.
Well, it's a 77 Enfield. When I came back from America, I bought it. And I just love it. Within Oroville, I use only walk or my Enfield. No cars are allowed. And in between, 5-6 years after the first bike, I bought a new one and I sold a new one. I really love my old one, tattered leather and this and that, but it's beautiful. I think an Enfield, the old Enfields have the sound is fantastic, and if you're driving through dirt roads like we do in Oroville and the forest, I think there's nothing that beats that experience.
Sheryl Crow, all I want to do is have some fun. Sheryl Crow, a cancer survivor, and what fortitude in her life to make the kind of music that she does. All I want to do. In studio is Dilip Kapur, a very, very vibrant character. He is president at Hidesign.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Rishi K.
Radio 1.
I'm always interested in using natural sources for anything. And you've revolutionized the leather business. And I want to talk a little bit about that. A, by discovering a unique form of leather. This is intrinsic to India, which I didn't even know about. And B, by using vegetable extracts. So talk about the whole process.
Well, I think it started when I was in America and I was working for this very premium company. And we kept getting this leather from UK, which was the most premium leather, the most expensive leather, and it was called EI leather. And I wrote to them and asked them, what is this EI leather? And they say it stands for East India leather. I said, wow, they didn't know I was from India. I was an American company. So then I asked them, where does it come from? And it came from 100 kilometers from my home. And that was really a shock. And it was, for hundreds of years, this leather has been considered the greatest leather in the world. There were 3 great centers of vegetable tanned leathers. Leather gets tanned either through vegetable extracts, which have a lot of tannin in them. And one was in Brazil, where they use quebracho. The second is in Italy, in Santa Croce, where they use chestnut. And the third was in Southeast India, where they used our own seeds, myrobalan seeds, and a bark of the wattle tree. And the Indian leather was considered to be the greatest because the color it gave was a blonde color, so you could make beautiful colors out of it, whereas the Brazilian and the Italian were too dark to give you anything except brown and black, finally. So when I came back to India, I started looking for it and discovered that this beautiful leather that we'd been making and we were famous for hundreds of years was becoming extinct. And for a simple reason that it took 40 days to tan with vegetable extracts, whereas the new process that had come from the West called chrome tanning took only 3 days. But the problem with chrome is that, as we know more and more now, it's a carcinogenic. It's poisonous for your skin to have it next to you, actually. I doubt if 5 years from now it'll be even allowed, but that's the leather that's being used all over. And it kills the soil around you. Around all these tanneries, we have only deserts and polluted waters. So we went back to this vegetable extracts, same wattle and I think the leather you get is a far better leather. It's far healthier. The big difference being that vegetable extracts actually feed the leather rather than just make it tan, just make it soft. It actually feeds the leather. So vegetable tan leathers last you for 100 years.
Wow. Messages and back with Dilip Kapur. Per Gasly, Marie Fredriksson, together they're rock set from Sweden. It's How Do You Do? He's doing fine. Dilip Kapur, president at Hidesign.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Rishi K.
Radio 1.
So lovely, Ayesha, your daughter, she's spectacular in black, grown a considerable deal since then. How did it first happen? I mean, Sanjay Leela Bansali sat in the very chair that you've been sitting in, and he's done many an interview, and sometimes when I ask him about his private life, he glares at me. He's quite scary in a way. And I tell him, you're very schoolmasterish, you're very professorish. And so, exacting filmmaker, but brilliant filmmaker. How did it all happen? Did he come to you and say, Dilip, I want Ayesha to work in this movie? Were you reluctant at first? Tell us about pre-Black Days.
Well, remember that we don't have any theaters in Oroville. There's none. So Ayesha, nor me, nor the family ever goes to theaters. We didn't know anything about Hindi movies. One day we got a call from his office saying they'd seen a picture of Ayesha and they thought she was perfect for a role they had in mind.
Was it a high design picture, a brand picture? Or
It was the picture that a friend of ours had taken back with them to Bombay. And one of his agents or somebody must have seen the picture. And they just called up out of the blue, and we didn't know who he was. So we said, who are you? And bullshit, we don't want our daughter in a movie. I was dead set against it. I thought it was the worst possible idea. Unfortunately, both Ayesha and my wife disagreed with me. And slowly they did convince us. And I think the movie that came out was a great experience for her, and she's just fallen in love with the idea. She's loves, even though she went to America now for education, and now she's come back. But she loves being in front of a camera. She just loves acting now.
So does that mean she is looking at a career in the movies? Is she already there? Yeah.
She's already, she's back now.
So here she is in the movies, and of course she was spectacular in black. You must be a very proud father, yeah?
Well, I think I am very proud of her, but we're a very academic family.
Yeah.
So I want to damn well make sure that she goes back to college.
It's like my dad said when I was going to be a radio presenter. He says, you do your masters and then you figure out what you want to do, but you can't just turn around and say, I finished high school and now, I want to be a radio presenter. So, fathers are fathers. Wonderful. Madonna with Give It To Me. And after this, last leg of conversation with the president of High Design, here he is, Dilip Kapur. The controversial George Michael, still a brilliant musician. It's outside. Dilip Kapur is president at High Design, and what an engaging hour of conversation and music it has been.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Rishi K.
Radio 1.
So, brand extensions. I'm given to understand that categories like sunglasses have also been embraced by High Design. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think we have, we have a different way of looking at things. And so the brand extensions are our footwear, our shoes. Men's shoes are coming out this month, women's shoes the month after, and also the sunglasses are already there. And I think we have a different way of doing things, and I think the most important thing to us is that we stand for something which believes that every piece has to have soul in it, has to be artisanal. You have to really work with handcrafted things. It should have character to it, which stands very much against the mass manufacture, the line systems, production, the China syndrome.
That's the China syndrome.
China syndrome, right? And that gives it soul, that gives it character, and not only happy workers, but hopefully happy customers, because there is character to the product, there's soul in it, there's distinctiveness to it. It doesn't look like 100,000 other people carrying the product. So I think that's what we bring into the product, and we've done the same in the shoes. Our shoes breathe. Our shoes are all leather, vegetable tan leather, so they're very good for your skin. They're not going to give you, carcinogenic chrome tan leather next to you. The lining inside is not synthetic, it's also all leather. So it's all leather, vegetable tan, beautiful, beautiful shoes, handcrafted. The sunglasses, we didn't use plastic. We use actually cellulose. Something which is based out of tree cellulose. So it's a very beautiful product. It's hand polished, again, the same thing. It's leather wrapped, so when you put it on your ears, you're not rubbing against plastic, you're rubbing against nice leather often. So I think that we have a story to tell, and that's the story we want to keep telling, that everything we produce is natural, is healthy, is ecological,
Slow.
and is slow, is made slowly. One of our bags takes 4 times the amount of time it takes to make a bag in Europe, and it takes 6 times the amount of time it takes to make a bag in China. But we believe that's the best way to produce the product.
Fantastic. I'm going to come back actually for one more twist. This is really interesting, so I'm going to stretch this interview just a little bit and come back and talk about the community and the society in Pondicherry and Auroville and corporate social responsibility with High Design. It's something we haven't talked about thus far. It's Macklemore and Ryan Lewis Thrift Shop. Sixpence none the richer, kiss me. Going to say bye-bye to Dilip Kapur, who's president at High Design.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Rishi K.
Radio 1.
Giving back to society and community, corporate social responsibility. High Design is, I believe, extremely committed to that. Talk about your efforts in the community.
Well, I think what you believe in has to come out in everything you do, not just in your product. Well, one of the interesting things about High Design is that we were the first leather goods factory where most of our workers are all women. And they were just girls from the villages that we trained. We took 2 years to train every one of them. Now, increasingly, we're working with beliefs that are important and core to us. We're working with Joss, who's one of my neighbors, who's done amazing work, on wildlife. We're very involved in afforestation all around the area, education about ecology, how to spread it through the high schools all around Tamil Nadu. We're very involved in replanting the original trees in that area. So every bag you buy, a little bit of that goes into that work, into getting back the original herbs, the trees, medicinal herbs. I was shocked to know that in India alone, we use more than 12,000, plants for medicinal purposes. And as we grow urbanized, we keep forgetting it, but the rural areas still keep using them and they're important to them. And I think that's one thing that around the area, we're making it a sustainable development in that area. We're encouraging for women's groups. We just did a bag, for example, with Vogue, where a large part of all the profits actually from that went into a women's group that does plants, medicinal herbs. So I think the commitment to the community around us is very, very important to us, but again, in the same values that are important in the brand itself.
I'm just curious to know, 78 is when you start Hide Design
Right.
in Pondicherry, but then your first store in India comes up only in the early 90s or late 90s.
Yeah.
Why did it take you so long to come back to country of origin and only do exports for that long?
Well, I mean, when I first started, remember, it was very much a rebel brand. I mean, people thought we were stupid and we were really crazy. Our leather was all rough and natural. We used brass. We didn't use electroplated fittings. And the only place we sold them was in all the alternative stores abroad. In India, everybody looked at us and thought we were weird. We were really strange then. Nobody was ready for it. It's only after India opened up and people went abroad and saw, yes, you don't have to have everything that looks like plastic. The things can be natural and be beautiful. We felt there was a market here. You're right. In the year 2000, when we started in India, only 8% of what we produced was being sold in India, and there was just the surplus. Now India is the majority. In 2006, it became our biggest market. It beat UK for us. But we're still out there. We're still in 23 countries other than it.
Dilip Kapur, what a fascinating journey this has been. Thank you for sharing your life and your brand with us, and I hope to see you soon on the show.
Thank you very much.
It's a singer who has Lebanese antecedents, Mika and Love Today.